Good morning, BookTube, YouTube. This is Johnny. Thought I would make a video, as my mantra is. It is 7:53 in the morning here in Holland, Michigan. It is June the 23rd, 2025. It is a Monday in the flow of existence here inside the Hermit Hut. I thought I'd do a Monday reads. I didn't do a Friday reads. I didn't make any video yesterday. I have still some thrift store books, used books, but I just wasn't in the right state of being to make a video. Because, you know, as I say that my videos are so haphazard, they're sloppy, they're imperfect, I can't pronounce words, but they're real, baby. They're real. So I'm waking up. This morning, as you know, I mentioned in my last video last week that I'm volunteering at our local library, the Hendricks Public Library, District Library, to help set up for the Friends of the Library used book sale. I've been doing that for years. But they didn't have it last year because they were remodeling the library. So I think it's been almost 2 years since they had a used book sale. Maybe it was June of 2023. I can't remember. So I will be leaving here 5 to 9 to go drive down to the library, which is about 5 minutes from where we live. And I'll do that until, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I usually put in 5 hours. Tomorrow, I can't volunteer tomorrow because I have an appointment with my psychologist at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I will go down to the library to see how they're doing. Usually, they set up pretty fast. You get 4 or 5 women. There's some men too, and maybe there won't be that many books this year. So I don't really know, because I haven't. As you know, I volunteered at the Book Nook, the library used bookstore, for many years, and then after they remodeled, I didn't like the new setup for the bookstore, so I decided not to volunteer. They ask me all the time, "Are you going to come back? We need you." I say no. I really have stopped leaving the house. I'm becoming more recluse, more withdrawn from the world. I really just don't want to go out there. I don't even go for walks anymore to city parks or county parks. I just sit around here and grow old and stiff and physically out of shape. So yeah, Monday reads. This is what I will be reading throughout the week. I'm on page 530 for my 2025 paper diary. It is June the 23rd, 2020. So I'm just going to show you what I have been reading. I got some new books here. I got in the mail. They're not used. They're thrift store, well, they're used books I could buy from Amazon. As I'm still reading in the mornings, this morning I alternate. One morning I'll read Christ's Prayer Before His Passion, Expository Sermons on John 17 by the Puritan Anthony Burgess. And then the next morning I'll read From the Life of Christ, Volume 1, Reader's Edition by Ludolph, the Carthusian, translated by Victor Cauchi. So yeah, I alternate. I go back and forth, and just basically been reading those in the mornings. In the mornings, my wife and I, when we have devotions, we're still going through the New Testament. I think we're coming to the end of 1 Corinthians, Paul's first epistle, Paul to the Corinthians, and then you have the second Corinthians, which I read to you last time, right? We're in I don't know, we got maybe, we got 6 chapters left in 1 Corinthians, and then we have the second epistle of Paul, the apostle, to the Corinthians. And then we're still reading through Isaiah. Last night before we went to bed, we read from Isaiah. I think it was around, we're coming to the end of Isaiah. I know we're in, I think around 63 or 64 in Isaiah, prophecy of Isaiah in the Old Testament. And then we always read a prayer from the Valley of Vision, a collection of Puritan prayers and devotions. So we did that pretty well. This morning we didn't do it because when I got up this morning, my wife left to go grocery shopping. So we didn't have devotions. But besides those Christian books in the morning, as you know, my reading habit in my old age is I read these books into the 11 or noon, and then I read nonfiction in the afternoons. I did I was watching a booktuber, and he did a book review on Bente's novel Zuma, and he said that in this was a good review of Zuma by the Antonio de Biente Zuma. So I bought this used. I have J.N. Coetzee. I have a whole shelf of his novels. And so I picked this up and I've been reading it. Late Essays, 2006 to 2017 by J.N. Coetzee. I can't pronounce the name. So I was reading that one, but also he has in here, I didn't know this, but he has an essay, Late Patrick White, on 19, an essay, Patrick White, and a review of his Patrick White's novel, The Solid Mandola. So I've been reading those because I've been reading, as I had told you, I've been reading Patrick White's biography, A Life by David Murr. That's a picture when he was really old, and this is when he was younger, Patrick White. And then I told you I bought with my Father's Day Amazon gift card, Patrick White Letters, edited by David Murr. I got this in the mail last week. So I have a biography written by David Murr, and he edited these letters. So I got that. So I've been reading this. I read this last night before going to bed. Usually I read literary fiction before I went to bed, but I have been reading this week a novel by Paul West, The Terrestrials. I came across Paul West, the writer, when I was reading Tolstoy's Dictaphone, Technology, the Muse, edited by Stephen Birkerts. There was in here there was an essay by Paul West, and I was really impressed by it. By it's called The End of an Elite of Paul West. And I read this essay, and I really enjoyed his thoughts and reflections on literature and writing. And this came out in the 90s. So, and I started checking out his novels on Amazon, and I said, oh, they look pretty interesting. I don't remember ever reading Paul West, but I was kind of interested in his writings, and so I I looked at them on Amazon and I ordered a couple of them. And one of them was The Terrestrials by Paul West. Yeah, it says, so I've been reading this. I've read about 153 pages of this. Very thick prose, very literary, great use of language, very thick prose. It's not light reading, but it says here, Booth and Clegg are 2 U.S. Air Force spy plane pilots, the elite of an elite, men competent in their skills, men who knew each other as well as they know themselves, or so they think. When their spy plane inexplicably plummets from the sky over the Saharan Africa, they find themselves thrust onto a journey to the poles of the late 20th century human experience. So I've been reading this, like I said, a lot of verbalage, a lot of one of the main characters is always, you go into his mind, his state of consciousness. So I've been reading that. The other ones I bought by Paul West, he wrote a novel called Life with Swan, which is basically an autobiographical novel based on his relationship with the poet and writer Diane Ackerman, who he married when she was he met her. I used to have Diana Ackerman's writings, but I dehauled them. And when I cataloged Life with Swan, it was in my Diana Ackerman collection. So I had a copy, but I don't think I ever remember reading it. At least I can't remember. But this is a novel he wrote about their relationship. They were married maybe 20 some odd years, up until he died. He lived to be in his 80s. She was younger, a lot younger than him. But I was reading this, and then I bought his novel, Paul West. This, I don't know if I can pronounce it correctly, but then I bought his novel, The Very Rich Hours of Count von Stauffenberg. So this is basically, says here, Paul West's book is richly informed account, historically scrupulous and blessedly free from the worship of saints, to which most works on German resistance to Hitler succumb. The author knows how to convey the atmosphere of stink and rot that pervade the Nazi regime, and that needs to be recalled in all its macabre horror to a public beginning to grow forgetful. He, Paul West, also manages to take the high-born conspirators and their milieu convincingly human. I was particularly struck by the scene of the arrest of Stauffenberg's family. In short, I found the book an intense, rewarding reading experience. H. Stuart Hughes, historian, author of Consciousness and Society. I have that book, Consciousness and Society, somewhere down the lower level. But I also ordered another used book by him that is coming in the mail, which is, I don't know, it's not, I don't know if I can remember it. It's called The Tint of Orange Mist, as I'm getting that in the mail. The Tint of Orange Mist is coming in the mail by Paul West. So I've been reading this too for my nonfiction or fiction, and then I'm reading the Terrestrials. I haven't started reading this yet. I have not started reading that. So, and then, as I said, I've been reading essays out of Tolstoy's Dictaphone. Yeah, I read the essays. I read one yesterday out of this. Now, as far as nonfiction, as you know, I go through, I have this stack here. Today, I'm supposed to be reading The Bright Circle, 5 Remarkable Women in the Age of Transcendentalism by Randall Fuller. I read this one day, and then the next day, I'll read Capitalism and its Critics, History from the Industrial Revolution to AI by John Cassidy. And then the next day, I'll read Free Speech, A History from Socrates to Social Media by Jacob McHamigam. I can't pronounce the name. Yeah, I've read almost 330 pages of Free Speech. Really recommend this book. Then the next day I'll read Tripping on Utopia, Margaret, Mead, The Cold War and the Troubled Birth of Psychedelic Science by Benjamin Breen. And then I've been reading, along with Square Haunting, 5 Writers in London Between the Wars by Francesca Wade. I read this, and then I've been reading along with this, A Room of One's Own, an essay by Virginia Woolf. And then I'm reading The Common Reader, which are literary essays by Virginia Woolf. So I go from one day to the next. And when I read one, then I put it below. So today, I'm to read Bright Circle, 5 Remarkable Women in the Age of Transcendentalism. I've read, I'm on the Life of Lydia Jackson Emerson, which was Ralph Emerson's wife. Been reading about her. And then the next one is on Margaret Fuller, which I've read 2 biographies on Margaret Fuller. And that's the next one, Margaret Fuller. The Tempests of Margaret Fuller is the next one. Of the 5 remarkable women in the age of transcendentalism. So that's what I'm reading, my Monday reads. I don't know what I'll be finding at the Friends of the Library used book sale. I'm not really looking for anything, but everything looks, I have everything I really want. So I just look for things that are odd, things unusual, things like that. But yeah. So yeah, it's been hot. We're in the 90s today. It was in the 90s yesterday. It's supposed to be almost like extremely humid outside. So we have the air conditioner on. So I recommend Tolstoy's Dictaphone if you like technology and the Muse. Always read him, J.N. Coetzee. Now I haven't read much of him. A couple of years ago I read a novel by him that I can't really remember, but I've been reading his essays. I check out Paul West. I haven't read everything. He might have different literary styles, but been reading this. Reading his autobiographical novel on his relationship with his wife, Diana Ackerman, Life of Swan. So that's what I'm reading. I got some used books coming in the mail. Don't know what I'll find at the used book sale this week. So there's always books. So I'm not going to make any political comment. I'm not going to go into that because it's too depressing, too gut-wrenching. If you want to know my thoughts, you can read my online diary, Crooked Fingers. So this is a Monday Reads. This is what I'm reading, what I'm attempting to read in my state of exhaustion, my state of praying that Lord give me grace to keep going through these very dark, dark, dark days. hoping that we do not go into a third world war, a dictatorship. Very, the word is absurd. So I pray you all have a good reading week. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for subscribing. Do pray that you get through this week. Look to the Lord for prayer. Look for the Lord for grace and strength. That's what I do. So I'll close. I'll download this video before I leave. I gotta leave around 5 to 9. And so, yeah. Until the next time, may the Lord bless.